Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Quick Question Podcast. My name is Gabe Ryan, alongside my co-host, Mr. Matthew Shafty.
Hello.
And on the sticks, we have producer Zeke Antilla. How you doing, Zeke?
Mic'd up today. I feel wonderful.
Well, that's good. I know you're going through a little bit of a foot problem. Glad you could show up.
Yes,
Fighting
thank
through
you.
for the listeners.
I'm here.
Shafty, you also have an ankle problem. We just have...
I had a let me explain. I don't know.
Shafty has the most brittle ankles known to man.
Right, yes, but this kid was 6'3", maybe 300 pounds. And I go up for a rebound, I got it, and he just stepped on my foot. Like, big boy. He was a big boy.
Yeah.
But I'm fine. I got up, walked it off, ran it off.
That's good. Fighting through pain today. But excited to be back with you for episode number 19, I believe. NFL divisional round wrapped up this weekend. NBA is around the midway point, almost towards the All-Star break. College basketball is in the middle of the conference season. Some big upsets this past weekend. Number one Houston loses to number 150 Temple, which is a huge loss for the Cougars. The Houston Cougars were the 9th team ranked number 1 this year so far. So a lot of parity in college basketball, which is good for the health of the sport, especially towards March Madness, because it could set up to be a very, very entertaining March and April national championship. But I think we're going to start with the NFL because those are the biggest stories and biggest games at the moment. Super Bowl is only a few weeks away. So Shafty, you want to dive into the first game of the weekend?
Yeah, quickly. Well, actually, will we get to that? No, maybe not. But Kansas has lost 3 in a row. That's tough for them.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Hopefully they can bounce back, but they play Kentucky pretty soon, right?
Kansas State might have killed Kansas.
Maybe.
Slayed the giant.
Well, I think they'll be fine.
But speaking of Kansas, we'll make our way to Kansas City for the first game.
Well, it's in Missouri.
Well, do you have to kill that?
There are 2 Kansas Cities.
I know.
Okay. Anyway, so
I was just
residing
trying
in
to
Kansas City,
segue.
Missouri, we have the Kansas City Buccaneers, who took on the Jags, and the Jags fought hard and fought well, but ultimately the better team prevailed, and it was the Chiefs. The Chiefs won 27-20. And before I want to go on quickly, I want to mention a predicament from last week, a Trevor Lawrence situation, where people thought I was saying that Trevor Lawrence, talent-wise, was on the level of Michael Jordan.
Which you were.
No, I was not. If you go back and watch the entire segment, right? Go back and watch the segment. I was saying from a mentality standpoint, right? It was comparable to the mentality of guys like Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Tom Brady, those kinds of guys. That's what I meant to say. If you would have watched the entire segment, and not just the 30-second clip, you wouldn't have come up with that misconception.
Shame on you, listeners. Shame on you.
Shame on you guys. I'm kidding. No shame. All right, we love you guys. But, it is TikTok. They are little 30-second clips, and we like to throw them out there. So we're going to keep doing that for fun. Anyway, well, the Chiefs, they played extremely well. Their defense really stepped up in big moments. They picked off Trevor Lawrence late in the game. Again, the Jaguars fought hard 2 weeks in a row where they're playing better opponents than them, and they're going out there and fighting every single down, every single snap. They only lost by 7, given that didn't they score very late in that game? Yeah. But still, the Chiefs looked like the better team. The Chiefs are the better team, and the Chiefs are moving on.
I think if you're a Chiefs fan, obviously you're excited because you're back in the AFC Championship for the 5th straight season, which is pretty remarkable. Patrick Mahomes has been in the AFC Championship every year he's been QB1, which is awesome. But if you're a Jaguars fan, I wouldn't be too dismayed about what happened. You went toe-to-toe with the Kansas City Chiefs. They've dominated the AFC for the last 5 years, as we mentioned before. Trevor Lawrence obviously didn't play as good of a game as he had hoped to, and the Kansas City Chiefs did a very, very good job about containing him and not letting him get off for big plays. But Trevor Lawrence, there's something brewing in Jacksonville, and I think their fans have every reason to be excited for the next coming years. Playoff experience is so valuable, especially for a team that hasn't had much in the recent years. One concerning thing for Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes obviously has a high ankle sprain that he suffered in the first quarter of the game. But Chad Henne came in, drove the ball 99 yards down the field and scored a touchdown. So even if there's some concerns about Patrick Mahomes' ankle sprain going into the AFC Championship game against the Bengals, I think the Chiefs are in good hands with Chad Henne. And when in doubt, throw the ball to Travis Kelce. He had 14 receptions against the Jaguars, and the Jaguars are one of the worst teams defending tight ends in the entire league, as shown this weekend. Travis Kelce had 14 receptions for 98 yards and 2 touchdowns, both in the red zone. Isaiah Pacheco also contributed with 12 carries and 95 yards. Chiefs really did well balancing out, especially playing with a wounded Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm. They played extremely well.
They did. And then moving on to the Saturday night game, this was the only non-competitive divisional round game in my eyes.
Yeah,
at least from the jump. Eagles dominated.
I don't know if you saw it coming. I think we both saw it coming last episode. The Eagles are the better team. The Eagles are playing at home, and this is not set up very well for the Giants. They're absolutely set up for failure in this game. Daniel Jones needed to ball out, and he didn't. It didn't happen 2 weeks in a row. It's Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes. You really expect him to go 2 weeks in a row against a very good defense, or from a not so great defense to a very good defense. You really think that he's capable of doing that? I don't think so. But the Eagles did play extremely well. I see there's people out there that like to throw shade at Jalen Hurts, saying, well, he only runs, got 800 yards on the ground. Well, I'd say Jalen Hurts and the crew of Eagles did play extremely well. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's really any denying that. He threw for 2 touchdowns, QBR of almost 118. He played well. I know, again, only 154 yards in the air, but like, come on, he played well. All right. The ground game, Kenneth Gainwell had his game of the year. He played extremely well with 1 touchdown on 112 yards, 12 rushes. Miles Sanders, 90 yards and 17 rushes. Again, this is a backfield. They have a bit of a 3-headed monster if you want to count Jalen Hurts. You could even count Boston Scott if you want, but it's really a 3-headed monster between Hurts, Gainwell, and Miles Sanders. And you saw them show out in that game, and it's really a good Giants defense. Mm-hmm. No disrespect to them at all. They've played well all season. They played well against the Minnesota Vikings, but it's a tough offense to stop, especially when they have that kind of identity. They found their identity. They have their Superman at quarterback, and they're playing extremely well. They got the 1 seed. They deserve the 1 seed. When a starting quarterback only has 1 loss in the year, I know he missed 2 games, but only 1 loss, that's really good.
Yeah. And I think, Shafty, if you're looking at the Giants, Daniel Jones arguably played his best game of his career last week against the Minnesota Vikings. We've talked a lot on the show in recent episodes about how Daniel Jones sometimes isn't much of a threat throwing the ball. He can scramble a little bit, he can move around in the pocket, but moving the ball, marching down the field, scoring a lot of touchdowns, having a high accumulation of passing yards is not something you associate with Daniel Jones. And I think the Giants going into the offseason were kind of basing his performance off of what they're going to do as far as a contract goes. Like, are they going to franchise tag them? Are they going to try to extend him for a high dollar? Like, if he balled out against the Eagles, even if he lost in a close game, I think he's getting a pretty sizable contract in the offseason, but that is not the case. He was sacked 5 times. He threw an interception, 15 for 27 for only 135 yards in the air, which is not necessarily what you want to see from your quarterback. But the Giants make their way back to the playoffs, which is huge for them and New York football as a whole, I would say, because it's been suffering as of recent. But if you look at the Eagles, they just dominated every side of the ball. They dominated up front. The passing game got going early. Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, they're just weapons.
Yep.
And Jalen Hurts, as much as people want to give him crap about how he throws the ball in comparison to other pocket passers, like, he's such a good dual threat, but he's also very smart in extending plays when you have athletes like Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert that are able to get open on secondary routes. After a play gets down, after he rolls out of the pocket, that is huge and so hard to cover. We'll see how they do against the 49ers next week.
Yep.
With one of the best defense, probably the best defense in all of football. But just a dominant performance from the Eagles.
Yeah.
I said this to you. I've said this to you multiple times, especially with the Phillies making it to the World Series and having a huge playoff run. If you're any team, Philadelphia is the last place on earth I would ever want to play a playoff game because the environment is crazy.
Yep.
We know people from Philadelphia are a little nuts.
They're for all their teams.
For all their teams, but 70,000 people just hating your guts. There is no line with how far they will go. They throw snowballs at Santa Claus.
I think it was a TikTok I saw where an Eagles fan, like a friend of a Giants fan, had to escort him like out of the stadium, or was it into the stadium, whatever. And there were like 20, 30 Eagles fans lined up, just booing him, flipping him off.
Yeah.
Like,
and
city of brotherly love, right?
And that morning, the Giants hotel, there was a water issue. So all the water was shut off to their hotel. So they couldn't take showers. They didn't have water to do anything. So it's just those little things. And then obviously when the Astros played the Phillies in the World Series, Astros were trying to get catering from different restaurants around Philadelphia, and they were denied twice.
Yeah.
By 2 different restaurants.
Well,
which understandable, I guess, but it's also like that's not something you hear about other teams in other cities throughout the country.
Well, Houston fought through that and still won the series.
Yeah, but the pettiness.
Yeah.
The pettiness is at a different level. So
it is.
If you're an Eagles fan, I'd feel good, especially since you have home field advantage.
Thing for the Giants moving forward, you have to face the question of, as Gabe mentioned earlier, is Daniel Jones your answer? And I think the short answer right now is no. You'll have to see what moves you can make in the offseason. There are some quarterbacks out there that you can go grab. You need a receiver. Try to re-sign Saquon Barkley if possible. And you have a young O-line that played better than the expectation. Hopefully they can keep getting better, and a defense that played well. For the Eagles, and we'll get to the 49ers in a moment, but for the Eagles and 49ers matchup, the question is now whether the Eagles, that team with the home field advantage, can go beat Defensive Player of the Year Nick Bosa and crew and continue their success story into the Super Bowl. And I'll get into that matchup more later. I was about to get into it, but we're not going to do that. Let's do it in just a moment. Gabe, why don't we continue on with your Bengals?
My Bengals traveled up to the wonderful city of Buffalo, New York, and dominated the Bills, won 27-10 in the second AFC divisional game. Bengals got the ball to start the game, drove 75 yards down the field, scored the first touchdown of the game. They got the ball back on their second possession, scored to go up 14-0. And from there, it was kind of an uphill battle for the Buffalo Bills. They did make it kind of close coming into halftime. Bengals were able to make some huge stops right before half. And then the first possession of the second half, they held the Buffalo Bills to a field goal, which was the last points they would score the entire game. But the Bengals had some question marks coming into this game because last week, left tackle Jonah Williams went down with an injury against the Ravens, and he was their third starting offensive lineman in the last 3 weeks that have gone down with a significant injury. Lyle Collins tore his ACL. He's out for the rest of the year. Alex Kappa has a high ankle sprain, so I don't know how his availability is going to be moving forward in the playoffs. And then Jonah Williams, who's been the starter all year, goes down with a leg injury. He dislocated his kneecap. So the Bengals had some question marks up front, but if you watch that game, Burrow had so much time to throw the ball. And if you give that man any sort of time, he's going to pick you apart. Jackson Carman got the start at left tackle, a rookie, and played phenomenal. I don't think Burrow was sacked one time on the game last year in the divisional round against the Titans. He was sacked 9 times. So both sides of the ball, Bengals dominated up front. Josh Allen didn't have much to throw to, had a hard time moving the ball down the field. If he made any decent completions, he was rolling out of the pocket, throwing off balance, and extending the play, which is just a credit to his talent. He's a phenomenal quarterback. But I think the Bengals' early lead just kind of sustained throughout the game. It was snowing. If you watch the game, that's kind of what football's all about. Watching it in the snow, it looked like a snow globe, looked amazing on TV. But I feel weird saying this, but that was probably the most comfortable Bengals playoff game I've ever watched. I wasn't usually I get really, really nervous and really anxious about the games and everything that's happening, but for whatever reason, it never felt like that throughout the game. So I think that's just a testament to how far the Bengals have come in 2 years.
Yep.
But they moved to have a rematch with the Chiefs for the AFC Championship. So it was a big day for Bengals fans and Bengals Nation. Obviously, if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, there's a lot that's happened up in Buffalo around that organization this year. And I think on paper, maybe people would have thought this was their year. This was the time where the stars aligned. They had so much adversity coming against them. This was the Cinderella story kind of thing. The Bills have been really talented at different points. They obviously, in the 90s, went to 4 Super Bowls and lost all 4. But they've had really talented teams. Josh Allen's a great quarterback who's just as good as Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow in the MVP conversation every year. And you would have just thought they would have been a little bit more resistant to the Bengals, especially at home. They're 13-1 all time. Josh Allen is undefeated at home in playoff games. So disappointing loss for the Buffalo Bills, but I'm sure the next few years they'll be back. They also were wounded on defense pretty significantly, which I'm sure contributed to that. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that. You have any?
Well, I can say one thing: the Bengals still can't cover tight ends.
No,
but their defense played extremely well. Give them credit. Only they held that team to 10 points at home. That you basically covered everything. I watched Romaine Edmonds and the Lions, and I think Jonah Williams had his kneecap bitten off by a special someone. Anyway, let's move on.
Well, last game of the divisional round. Sunday night on Fox, the San Francisco 49ers beat the Dallas Cowboys 19-12. If you're a football purist, it wasn't the prettiest of games by any means, not very high scoring. I think there were only 2 or 3 touchdowns in the entire game. But the 49ers defense is really, really good. Same thing with the Cowboys. The Cowboys played a great game on defense. Micah Parsons, Lawrence, all those guys are really, really good players. But Brock Purdy and company were able to get it done. He was 19 for 29 with 214 yards. Didn't have a touchdown, but made some really key drives, especially late in the game.
He played well enough.
He played well enough.
He dealt to the guys he needed to get the ball to, which on that offense, really, it's Kittle, it's Samuel, it's Ayuk, it's Christian McCaffrey, and it's Juwan Jennings. And he hit all 5 of them in that game. And again, special performance from a kid who is known as Mr. Irrelevant, right? And I get it. The stats, he doesn't wow you in this game with the stats, but his consistency, there were some balls that were thrown over the heads of receivers. There was one that was almost picked off by Trayvon Diggs, which would have been a game-changing play, but
I don't know how he didn't.
I don't know how you can't make that catch. I'm going to be honest. It was you could have caught it in your lap.
Yep.
You could have blindfolded yourself and still caught it. That was crazy. Anyway, they ran the ball pretty well, not crazy well, but they ran the ball well enough with Elijah Mitchell and Christian McCaffrey. But the offense did what it needed to do. They scored 19 points, which you don't really see that from the 49ers. You'd like to see more out of them, but that's a Dallas defense that played extremely well. And if we flip sides of the ball real quick, 49ers defense held the Cowboys offense in check. Yeah. They did extremely well. I talked about Nick Bosa being the defensive player of the year, and honestly, he didn't have a sack. In comparison to some other guys, he didn't have his best game, but, he was being double-teamed and stuff. But other guys stepped up. You saw Travarius Ward tip a ball into the hands of Fred Warner. Fred Warner had an extremely good game, and even though Warner is not known as really a man-to-man coverage linebacker, he did an extremely good job in coverage in that game. And credit to that defense. Again, they did extremely well. Yeah. You saw Diamandre Lenore pick off a pass. Dak, I don't even know what he was doing. He kind of just stood there. I think he waited for his receiver to come back to the ball a little bit, but really
obviously
it was like
some sort of miscommunication.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Either way, you waiting or not, you don't make that pass, right? Lenore, even if he comes back to the ball, Lenore is right there. It's either an incompletion or an interception. Either way, you throw that ball away, get it into the second deck, like get that ball out of there. And he stood there, and then looked and kept his eyes on the receiver. Who was it? It was Michael Gallup for 2 seconds, like a whole 2 seconds, and then threw the ball to him. I could have put a 6th grader out there to pick that pass off.
Yep.
Like, I think you know where the ball is going. I think you have some kind of idea where the ball is going. That was frustrating. That was really frustrating for a guy who, yes, his receivers have made critical mistakes. He made 2 critical mistakes by not seeing cornerbacks, right? He didn't see Travarius Ward, and he didn't see Diamandre Lenore. 2 huge game-changing mistakes.
Yep. I think if you're looking at the 49ers, you're looking at Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is not going to jump off the stat sheet by any means. He's not going to be the perfect quarterback that everyone in America wants him to be, right? This is his 7th career start in the NFL. Just so happens to be in the NFC divisional game. But for the San Francisco 49ers and the way their system works, Brock Purdy is the perfect quarterback. Mm-hmm. And a lot of other quarterbacks, I'm sure, could be plugged in to his role and do just as good of a job. Because the way the 49ers offense works, it is centered around running the ball, picking your spots in the passing game, and just being accurate and not making stupid decisions. Obviously, Purdy could have had an interception to Diggs.
It's not the first time he's made stupid decisions.
No, it's not. Yeah. And it won't be the last.
No, of course not.
But he made the plays he needed to make to win the game. Mm-hmm. And as much as you want to make the argument about quarterbacks being supremely talented, they throw for crazy yards, they have crazy arms, they can throw the ball in a bucket, whatever it is, if they can't make the drives to win the game, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. It really doesn't matter. And Dak Prescott, I think, has proven over his career, he's obviously won playoff games. He's led the Cowboys to great seasons in the regular season. But when he gets in the playoffs, he hasn't been able to put that drive together to win the game, to make it to a Super Bowl.
Yep.
To even compete for a Super Bowl. And I think you could look at the talent he's had around them. Sure, he hasn't had the greatest receivers. Sure, he's had some youth. He's made the wide receivers have run the wrong routes.
Yep.
Miscommunications all over the place. He's been hurt at times. But he played 4 less games than I think he only played 13 or 12 or 13 of the games in the regular season, still led the NFC in interceptions. Mm-hmm. No matter whose fault it is, he still leads the NFC in interceptions. And those mistakes show themselves when games get more important.
I quickly want to touch on a point. And there's no debate. Brock Purdy absolutely outdueled Dak Prescott in this game. Mm-hmm. I don't care if you want to look at one defense or the other because both defenses played extremely well.
Yeah.
What I'm going to leave it at is Brock Purdy was able to spread the wealth, which is what he's called upon to do in that offense. They have a system. They don't need a Superman quarterback. They can throw in Mr. Irrelevant and be the best team in the NFL. That's saying something. Imagine if they had Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo on this team right now, right? Lance showed flashes. Garoppolo played consistent. Now you have Mr. Irrelevant, and he's still leading this team to victory, right? No disrespect at all to Purdy. He's played well, but this team is so good. I want to get back to the Cowboys real quick. The biggest play of the game was the ankle injury to Tony Pollard. Mm-hmm. That was the biggest play of the game. Pollard, to me, in that game, him, CeeDee Lamb, seemed like the focal points of that offense. When he got hurt in the first half, couldn't come back for the second half. For some reason, Dak was, and again, it's the same thing about eyeing these receivers. He's not going through his progressions. He's eyeing CeeDee Lamb. He just, again, that one interception he had where Ward tipped it and Fred Warner picked it off in the second half, he was staring down Lamb. Lamb started running across the middle. He's staring at him. He starts rolling out to his left. So Lamb starts coming this way, and Ward's just like, okay, I know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Steps up, picks it off, or tips it, and it's intercepted. But again, like, Lamb did play extremely well. He had 10 receptions for 117 yards. But it was very, very readable.
Yeah.
It was very readable. And I hate to say it. I hate to be that kind of guy to a quarterback that's had a good career in Dallas, especially early on. But the way I see it right now, what I saw in that game is a little troubling, a little worrying. Am I going to go to the point where I'm saying cut Dak? No, of course not. But because I still believe in Dak. I still believe he's a good quarterback in this league. I'm not going to go that far. But if he only has...
Is he going to be your Super Bowl quarterback?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Right?
That's a question you don't want to have to ask.
Has more playoff wins in the last 5 seasons than Dak Prescott does. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, has more playoff wins than you.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad. And he let them down. The main reason they lost was Dak Prescott. Don't get it twisted, right? Mike McCarthy didn't coach his best game. His clock management wasn't great. But don't get it twisted. This was Dak's fault. All right? That's it.
Okay.
I'm going to leave it at that.
Yep. And I think Dak, because he plays for the team he plays for, gets way more attention than other teams. He gets a lot of unfair comparisons, treatment by the media, by average Joes like us. But at the end of the day, even with Tony Pollard going out of the game, even with their backs against the wall, not being a high-scored game or whatever, the great ones find a way to win, no matter what the situation is. They find a way to get it done. And even if they turn the ball over, if they fumble, if they're getting sacked all game, they find a way to get it done.
Yep.
And Dak Prescott has not been able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So
there was also a narrative that was running around preseason, and now it's being mentioned again since he's lost. And it was, Dak is an amazing person, and Dallas fans really want that person, one of the best people in the NFL, to translate to being one of the best players in the NFL. And that's kind of how some Cowboys fans see it, right? Now I'm starting to understand that. I thought, okay, that's just, that's a little weird. I don't really understand that. I think that's just shade being thrown at the Cowboys. But now I'm starting to understand it a little bit. Dak is an amazing person. Dak has no reason to leave the Cowboys. But again, the media, all that media around the Cowboys, where you can surround him, entrench him in, oh, this man's a top 10 quarterback, and it's just being spread left and right. Everyone's going to believe it. The Cowboys fans are going to believe it. I just don't, at this point, I don't see him as a top 10 quarterback in the scheme that he's in right now, especially when you're only throwing the ball to CeeDee Lamb. I completely understand that. You need another receiver. I would go as far to say that I would rather have Jared Goff in Detroit than I would Dak Prescott. And that, again, I am not, there is no bias in this because I have spoken out. You've
bias?
You've heard me speak out on Goff before. Listen
do
to
you
me.
mean?
Listen. Goff actually has his scheme that works around him, right?
okay,
I don't think you can plug Dak Prescott into that scheme and hold the same results, especially with the way he played today.
okay,
If he's only going through his progressions with one receiver, right? Where, here, listen to this, right? Guess who Jared Goff throughout the season is throwing to? Amon-Ra and TJ earlier in the year. But then you have guys like Khalif Raymond, right? DJ Chark, Tom Kennedy, right? Guys who are like Khalif Raymond and Tom Kennedy, no disrespect to them.
Mr.
But I would
Irrelevant.
rather have Noah Brown. I would rather have T.Y. Hilton. I would rather have those 2, 3, 4 receivers, Michael Gallup included, on the lines than I would Tom Kennedy. And still, Goff on 3rd and 12 against the Giants, is still dealing the ball to Tom Kennedy, who had, I think it was 5 or 6 receptions in that game. He led the Lions in receptions. Tom Kennedy. Goff can spread the wealth. Dak, you can see it. Cannot. And the receiving corps are not that different in Detroit and Dallas. They're not. That's my argument.
Okay.
But Goff is spreading the wealth. Dak is not.
Okay. I think if you're going the system argument, the fits for the system, I think you have.
In no way, shape, or form am I saying Jared Goff is the better player. No way.
Okay.
But in the system, Goff works so much better than Dak. And again, don't throw this on TikTok and say, "Oh yeah, that's what I meant," because you just heard me say it.
100,000%
heard me
going
say
on
it.
TikTok.
Okay, that can go on TikTok, but you have to include that last part, right? You just heard me say it. Dak is a better player. Goff fits the system better.
We're only here for clickbait, Shafty.
Right.
I'm not including that last part.
Come on.
Unless you want to make it. Do you want to make it?
I want, yes.
Okay. You have creative control. Or Zeke. Or we could throw it to Zeke. Zeke, what do you think? What do you think?
Get on the mic. Please help me.
Yeah, no, that's all me.
That's all you?
Yeah, that's all me, Shafty. I'm sorry, bro.
You got to be careful what you say around here.
But you heard, okay, but tell them to watch the full segment at least, right? Because again, it's gonna be another misconception, and people are gonna lose their minds with me, right?
Good. Are you like the?
And then here I go, have to respond again, sitting in my
the
chair.
Stephen
here.
A. Smith of our operation,
and that is fine. That is fine.
The bandana man.
This isn't. I don't even think that's a bold take, though. That's not. That's not a bold take. It makes sense.
Okay. I'm not disagreeing with you. It's just the way you presented it. It was just like, it's not biased at all. I'm a Detroit Lions.
But you had to hear me out, right? You had to hear me out. I said it's not biased, and you heard me out, and now the argument, you understand it, and it's not biased.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
If you were a fan of any other team in the National Football League, and you were trying to make that argument, would you use your team that you were a fan of, or would you use the Detroit
No, because
Lions?
I think Jared Goff is the perfect example. I think Jared Goff and that receiving corps is the perfect similarity, perfect example.
Okay.
I mean, he's throwing on third down to Penei Sewell, right? It's the perfect example. You think Dak Prescott's going to go on third and whatever, third and 11, third and 12?
I have another guy that I'm thinking of.
All right, go ahead.
Geno Smith.
Okay. That's fair.
He made it to the playoffs. A Seattle Seahawks team that was supposed to be absolutely terrible. He works the system with Pete Carroll. He makes it to the playoffs. He ousts Jared Goff and the Lions from the playoffs. He qualifies over.
Week 3? The Lions had a bunch of injuries, but go on.
But who made it to the playoffs?
Yes, Geno.
Okay.
And he played extremely well, and he made a Pro Bowl for it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think, again,
there's something about the system and
right?
a great fit. And I understand what you're saying with that. And Dak,
Brock Purdy, same thing.
But
Brock Purdy's a great fit.
Here's the other question I'll pose. What's the correct fit for Dak? What kind of system does he need? He's been there. How long has he been in the league? 5, 6, 7 years?
Exactly. At this point, he hasn't had a system around him that works for him yet. He's played extremely well in seasons, but he hasn't had his perfect system. He hasn't.
And is that answer in Dallas?
I don't know. With Jerry Jones, I don't know.
And I don't know if Mike McCarthy's going to deliver.
And what is the perfect system for a guy like that? A good O-line to start, right? I mean, what Tyler Smith played well during the season. Zach Barnes, a freaking all-pro.
Yeah.
I
mean,
do you think? Actually, I'm going to ask you this now. Do you think Cooper Rush would have done a better job in that game?
You know,
do you think he would have done a better job? At least dealing.
I don't
to
care
other
what
receivers.
his stat lines were. Did he win games?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what?
That's all that matters.
See, I want to make the same argument too, because Cooper Rush actually dealt to his receivers, right? Actually, he spread the wealth. Dak? No.
I don't
Not
care if Cooper Rush is the most untalented person in
Exactly.
America.
Exactly. He's not.
If you put a W in the win column, I'm keeping you,
Right.
at least for a little bit.
If you can get the ball into the hands of your playmakers on a consistent basis and not just one, right? I had CeeDee Lamb in fantasy, and I was disappointed with CeeDee Lamb. And then when Dak came back, CeeDee Lamb went boom.
Yeah.
Right?
In the fantasy
again, targets.
the fantasy football world we live in, stats are way too overhyped.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're really thinking about what matters in the game of football, what matters to the teams and the individuals that are actually in that locker room, actually a part of the organization, the only thing that matters is winning the game.
Yep.
Stats are amazing, all pro selections, MVPs, incredible accolades, incredible things for players to push themselves to work towards because that gives them motivation throughout the season and everything. But the best teams find ways to win.
Yep.
And that's where we'll leave this.
Okay.
Because I think we've gone on a little bit too
We
long.
have gone a very
Way too long.
time. Also, real quick, this is a question that I wanted to bring it up earlier, but I didn't because I was going to wait until after this. That took a long time. The 49ers and Eagles game. It's now a question of, can a team with an identity, with good fronts, with a good defense, right? With good playmakers and a regular Joe at quarterback, face basically a mirror image with Superman on quarterback on the road and still continue their win streak?
Yeah. That's the
Right?
question.
That's the question. That's
And
all.
we shall
that's all
see
we got. Yeah.
Sunday at what time do they play? 3?
I don't know.
I hope so.
I don't know.
I know the Bengals play at 6:30. They play the
let's-
late game.
Yeah, they play at 3. Yeah.
So that's huge.
All right. So
Moving on. You want to talk about the NBA?
we can talk about it very less now
Okay.
because we spent a lot of time with the NFL, and that was
We
fun.
did. It
That
was
was
fun.
fun. All right. That I honestly think that was my favorite.
Zeke,
segment.
before we jump into this, do you have anything to add?
Those were hot.
Those were hot
hot.
takes.
Those were hot.
I saw you over there with your eyes just, oh no.
Well, now the NBA. I'm sure if you're watching this on YouTube, wherever, I'm pretty sure the title of this segment is called "The Hottest Takes in the NBA." So we're just getting started.
Okay. This is halfway.
We're heating up.
These are, I'm calling them halfway hot takes because I believe there's still some room for some teams to make a run. And a lot of people would disagree with this. The Los Angeles Lakers. Here we go. LeBron, player of the week in the Western Conference. They went 3-1 last week. Recently, they had a 5-game win streak. In their last 10 games, they're 6-4. They are, 4 or 5 games back from the 4 seed. And they are sitting at 12th place in the Western Conference. The race is so tight right now.
This is awful.
I know. It's ridiculous. With
Never mind.
with all of that being said, they're right there. They have a record below 500. They're playing better. They just traded for Rui Hashimura, which I think in their own way they won the trade. ESPN can say whatever they want. They said they graded it as a C because they lost 2 second-round picks. Well, I get, picks are very valuable in the NBA. At the same time, you got Rui Hashimura, a very, very, very good role player in the NBA, a top 10 pick a few years, 3 or 4 years ago, right?
Gonzaga Bulldogs.
He's going to fit that Lakers system very, very well, right? He's a good defender. He gets to the hoop and finishes, and he can shoot the 3. What else could you want in LA? What else could you want? That's great. You lost Kendrick Nunn. Kendrick Nunn was not getting the production that people had thought he was going to get, especially with guys like Westbrook, Lonnie Walker, right? Max Christie's getting more minutes. He's playing better. How about Patrick Beverley, of course, right? Those kinds of guards there who are already there, getting minutes, putting up points, and playing well, right? Kendrick Nunn was not vital to the system, so they got rid of him. On the other side, the Wizards, they won the trade in their own way as well. They got a guard who could help their team out. They got 2 second-round picks. It's a win-win.
Yeah, they're only
That's
a
how
few
professional.
games.
That's how professional trades are. I think a lot of people don't understand that. There are some trades that are really, really dumb, but in most cases, in any league, trades are professional. You win on both sides, right? You may say in the long run, you could look back 15 years from now and say which team did better than the other in that trade. But either way, in the moment, both teams have won in their current circumstances.
Yep, and the Wizards are only 2 games out of the wild card, or the play-in, whatever. Is it play-in in NBA?
Play-in, yeah, it's the play-in. It's weird names, but
Yeah.
Anyway, I just want to focus real quick before the All-Star break. The Lakers' schedule. The Lakers are finally starting to get a little more consistent, right? They've played close to opponents. Before we get to the schedule, I want to mark some games that have been extremely important to them recently. They beat the Trailblazers on the road. The Trailblazers have slipped. They really have. They were like third in the conference in the beginning of the year, and now they're just plummeting. But you can't really plummet too far in the Western Conference. You're just going to fall 13th place and be 5 games back of 4th. Like, well, I don't know. They beat the Grizzlies. Very impressive win. They won by 1, but they beat the Grizzlies. They played a Kings team who is 26-19 somehow and only lost by 5, right? They beat the Rockets as they should. They only lost by 1 to the 76ers. They lost by 4 to the Mavericks. And they played close until the end against the Nuggets. Now, at that point, they had their 5-game win streak or 4-game win streak before that, and then now let's get back to the current day. So the remaining schedule before the All-Star break. Let's start out at the top. We have 2 games. We got a game today and a game tomorrow, both at home. You have the Clippers, big rivalry, and then you have the Spurs,
who suck.
Those are 2 extremely winnable games. And guess what? If they win both those games, they're 1 game back for 500. And if things go right, they could be in playoff play-in position. By just 2 wins, right? They could be right there. The Lakers are playing much better than what they were, right? They made a deal that should really pay dividends for them. I'm excited. I really am. For a team that has completely underperformed last season and now this season hasn't done amazing, they're doing better. They're taking steps, right? The moment we start doubting LeBron and Anthony Davis, right? The moment that team starts getting hurt, it's like they rebound, rejuvenate, they get healthy, and all of a sudden they're playing better basketball. You can't doubt the talent of LeBron and Anthony Davis. You just can't, right? And then obviously you have Russell Westbrook, who is making a case for 6th man of the year. So the Lakers are doing much better. They're in a much better situation. And I believe, hot take, I believe they'll make the playoffs.
Okay.
I do. I do believe they will make the playoffs. I don't even know if that's a hot take in the Western Conference right now. I don't.
This is the last really quick thing before we move on. But this Western Conference, talk about congested.
Yeah.
So we'll start with who's in 3rd in the conference in Sacramento Kings. They're 27-19. The 13th place team is the Portland Trailblazers, and they are 22-25. So really not much difference.
Yeah.
And all the teams in between most of them have a winning percentage of just over or just under 500. So every team is right there.
Again.
If a team gets cold for 3-4 games, they're going to drop a significant amount of spots. Now, on the contrary, if they go on a little streak like the Lakers are set up to do, they're right back in the game.
Again, the difference between the Pelicans and the Lakers and Trailblazers right now is 4 games.
It's crazy.
That's it. And we're approaching All-Star break. It's going to be a huge time to reload for these teams. And the playoff push is going to be incredible this year. You don't say that a lot in basketball, especially in the NBA, but this is going to be fun to watch.
Especially
this is going to be fun to watch.
Especially with the
going on in the Western Conference.
Yeah, especially with the play-in stuff, expands the playoffs a little bit to more teams.
Yep.
Yeah, should be exciting.
So, and then after they have 5 games in a row on the road, which won't be easy at all. Let's see. They start with the Celtics and the Nets. Then they have the Knicks, the Pacers, and the Pelicans, right? 5 losable games. They have to win. I think if you're a Lakers fan, you have to think, hey, we have to go out there and win at least 2. If we can take 2 on the road, come back, play at home, 2 more games against the Thunder and the Bucks and take one of those, again, we're still in it easily, right? And then at that point, you have 3 more games before All-Star break against the Warriors, the Trailblazers, and the Pelicans. Now, the Lakers are playing better, and they could obviously go on the road and win 3 of 5 or even 4 of 5, right? they're tough opponents. But if anyone can do it right now with a team that's playing extremely well and has competed with some of the best, like Memphis,
Yep.
right? And Philadelphia, who's playing a lot better. Why not the Lakers? Why not the Lakers?
Why not?
Why not? Could they escape?
Why not us?
What if they could escape the play-in? What if they could be like a 5 seed, 4
They
seed?
could.
They could. They absolutely could because they have the talent to do that.
Mhm.
Again, depth may be a question mark, but it is the NBA, right? Guys like Najee Marshall are getting minutes.
They are.
I'm
They're
kidding.
balling
I'm
out.
kidding. I'm sorry.
He's
sorry.
averaging
That was-
almost
it
19
was
a
a joke.
game.
I'm sorry.
And almost 10 rebounds and like 5 assists. So you can shove it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a joke. I'm sorry.
You don't cross those lines.
Okay. I won't.
I can cross yours, but
No, you can't.
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
That's
all
how it
right.
works.
All right. Let's.
um,
Okay. So
moving on to how deep is your love?
that was a fun little Lakers segment.
No, are we still staying in the NBA?
No, we're gonna move on because we should probably rename that. Never mind, we don't have to. NBA hot takes to just Lakers make the playoffs because I think they will. Anyway, I have one question today
Well, now we
for
can't
how deep
change
is your
it.
love? Yeah, it is. Well,
Oh,
too late.
well.
Whatever. I have verbally changed it. If you listen to the podcast, you'll know. But if you just listen to the TikTok, you won't know. So come join the podcast. All right. Anyway, yeah, it's really grinding my gears. I know. I have one. How deep is your love today?
Okay.
One.
Go for it.
It is the Battle of the Russells. I got this inspiration from it was a Barstool
Wait,
post.
Hold on.
Can
Is
I
this a rankum segment? or
rank
is-
them? Battle of the Russells. We have
So this
three-
is not your how deep is your love.
Oh shoot! This is rank them. Jeez, I'm so sorry.
You're on fire today, Shaq.
I am on fire. Okay. Should we do rank 'em? Should we do
You
rank
know
'em
what?
first?
Let's do
rank.
it.
Let's
Let's
do
do
rank
it.
'em
Let's
first.
do
Why
it.
not? I've already started. I was inspired by a Barstool post on Instagram a while ago, where it was Big Cat's power rankings of different NFL teams, and then he had Russell Wilson and Russell Crowe and Russell Westbrook all the way down the bottom tier, and he had Russell Crowe in the end. And I commented, "That is Russell Crowe slander." So I want to hear it from both of us and Zeke. What is the order? How would you rank Russell Crowe, Russell Westbrook, and Russell Wilson?
So I'll be honest. I've never seen The Gladiator,
Wow.
which is probably like it's awful, and I know I need to see it. And that's probably Russell Crowe's best performance, at least
One of
critics acclaim. But to be honest, I don't really like Russell Westbrook or Russell Wilson. So I think based on what other people have lauded him and saying, I'm going to go Russell Crowe,
Mhm.
Russell Westbrook, and then Russell Wilson.
You know, I love Russell Crowe in his movies. The Gladiator was awesome, but I think his best performance was a movie called A Beautiful Mind.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Amazing performance. He was acting out a guy with what's his name? Shit,
Oh,
with
is this the
schizophrenia.
one? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it was impeccable acting. And that inspired me to go watch more of his movies. And again, he's just an amazing actor. There was a movie that he was in recently called it's a little funny one. I don't know what platform it's on. I can't remember, but it's called The Greatest Beer Run Ever. It's this guy who goes to the Vietnam War and wants to get his friends a beer.
Zac Efron's movie.
Yeah. A lot of people did not like it. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was a great movie. Really. I like the message behind it was cool. But I thought it was just a fun, and really I thought it was a good movie. There's some people that didn't like it, but like you said before, they can shove it. Right?
Yeah.
So
You can quote it.
Russell Wilson, or not Russell, jeez. Yes, Russell Wilson's last, all right? Third place, Russell Wilson. Second place, Russell Westbrook's had an amazing career, right? He has.
Yeah.
Right? Never won a ring. Never won a ring. He's won an MVP, right? He's got a bunch of triple doubles. But number one, Russell Crowe. And I am done with the slander of Russell Crowe. I'm done. I'm over it.
I don't know who started the slander of Russell Crowe,
It was Barstool
but I'm
Big
glad
Cat.
that you're slaying that dragon.
Big Cat from Barstool. Anyway, let's move on to
What
how
an
deep is yours. This is
episode.
a great episode.
This is
I think
awesome.
that NFL segment was my favorite segment ever. Truly, I believe that was my favorite segment. That was great. That was great. Both of you guys laughing at me and then having to explain myself, and both you guys going, okay. That makes sense.
It's
Okay.
just, Shafty, it's sometimes the
That's
way
fair.
you
Good point.
present the argument
I get it.
that gets you in hot water.
Here's the thing, but it gets people interested, right? It gets
That's
people.
true.
It's like the topic
That's true.
sentence,
Marketing
It gets
101
people
from Matt
interested.
Shafty.
right?
Hey, shake my hand.
But that's how I did it, though, right?
Yeah.
Zeke's telling me to move on.
Okay.
All right.
We're going to move on.
Yeah.
How deep is your love? Because we skipped that.
Your team right now
Unintentionally.
is more relevant than mine. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So, Xavier basketball.
Okay.
Which team?
I thought you were going
Bengals?
Cincinnati.
I
Are you
already
going both?
I already talked about
Okay,
the Bengals.
all right,
Bengals dominated. Blah, blah, blah. I'm excited for the AFC Championship. Another rematch against the Chiefs. Burrow is 3-0 against Mahomes. All of that thrown out the window. Burrow needs to win. Bengals need to win in Arrowhead. It's going to be an incredible game. I know Mahomes is banged up a little bit with a high ankle sprain, and I've had experience with high ankle sprain in my life, and there is something to be said about once it happens, you get to feed off the adrenaline of the game. There's chances you can play through the pain on the day that it happens. But the following days, the pain is not great. And sometimes high ankle sprains can be worse than broken ankles.
Yep.
Shafty, you can speak to this. But I think Mahomes is going to play. There's no doubt in my mind that he plays. I hope he's as healthy as possible because I don't want, if the Bengals were to win and the Chiefs didn't have Mahomes or he didn't play great because of the ankle, I just, for the sake of the Bengals, I don't want that storyline floating up that they were gifted a
I know,
Super Bowl
yeah.
berth or
That's-
something like that.
You know
Now,
what?
at some point you can't do anything about it. It's out of
Yeah.
the control of the Bengals. But
I'm gonna say that very honorable right there.
yeah,
To say something like that, that's very honorable.
that's who I
Really?
am.
Yeah.
That sounded so bad.
Oh my gosh.
But I think Lou Anarumo is going to come with a master plan against. It's going to be genius versus genius. Andy Reid, one of the greatest offensive minds ever. He won his 20th playoff game as a head coach, 10 in each division, which is pretty impressive. But you have his genius. You have Lou Anarumo's genius. He's beaten the Chiefs 3 times in the last year. So we'll see if it pays off again. The Bengals played their most complete game of the year by far against the Bills, so they're playing at the highest level that they've been playing all year. So excited to see if they can control the run game, control up front. I think the Bengals have a good chance of winning in Arrowhead. They're not scared, and they've earned the confidence to not be scared or timid in those situations. They've won 5 playoff games in the last 2 years, so sky's the limit for them. But I'm hoping it's a good game, hoping that it's the best of what we have in football right now. And same thing on the other side for the Niners-Eagles game. That matchup's going to be really fun to watch. I hope it's an incredible game and may the best team win. Also going to talk about Xavier. Xavier snapped their 11-game win streak last week. Lost to DePaul on Wednesday night. It was very sad. DePaul's not great. Xavier played terrible. Sule Boom and Colby Jones, arguably 2 of their best players. Sule Boom is near the conference lead in points per game. Both of them had an off night on the wrong night. They were 4 for 26 combined. Xavier did not shoot well at all that night. They were 12 for 30 on layups. So a disappointing loss to a DePaul team that's not going to do much down the stretch. DePaul does have some matchup problems. Their guards are really good. Gibson and one of their other guards had, I think, 35 at halftime combined. And then Xavier beat Georgetown over the weekend, but not as convincingly as I think they would hope to. Their defense really didn't show up. Primo Spears, we'll call back to previous episodes. Matt loves this man.
Yep.
And rightfully so. He had 37 on the Musketeers, put on an absolute clinic. Pull-up jumpers, threes. He was doing everything, and it was demoralizing to watch from a Xavier perspective because They had no answers on defense. And they have a tough stretch coming up this week. They have to go to UConn tomorrow night, Wednesday, January 25th at 6:30. And then they have to travel to Creighton, and they're playing on CBS on Saturday. Coincidentally, last year, when the Bengals made the AFC Championship game, Xavier played at Creighton the day before on that Saturday, won, and then the Bengals beat the Chiefs on Sunday and advanced to the Super Bowl. So hopefully the Bengals can run it back, or both teams can run it back and do the same thing. Mm-hmm. That'd be a great weekend. I think if the Xavier wins one of their 2 next games on the road, I feel pretty good about that. So that's all I have to say about my teams.
Yep. Quickly, I want to mention Michigan State. The Big Ten is always tough. It is. It's the way it is. We just recently lost to Indiana. We had a big win against Rutgers, but tough loss in Bloomington. It seemed like early Michigan State looked like the better team. They had the lead. And then Trace Jackson-Davis just started playing extremely well. Indiana couldn't miss from deep, and they shot almost 90% from the free throw line. Michigan State, on the other hand, shot 67% from the free throw line, which is not going to get it done on how many? 28 to 29 free throws. So almost 30 free throws, and you you make 2/3 of them. That's just not that's not a call for success right there. That's not going to happen. And we struggled. We struggled to put the ball in the basket from some of our guys. Tyson Walker, AJ Hoggard did not play their best games, but Jaden Akins played well. Mm-hmm. It was Joey Hauser. Sorry, Joey Hauser. I wanted to mention because
he had a good game.
He did have a good game. Yet he got into some foul trouble. Or I'm sorry, he wasn't in foul trouble. It was Monty Sissoko. Sissoko got into foul trouble. He only had 2 points. That brought in Jackson Kohler. Kohler early looked like he was playing well, but then he also got into foul trouble. He had 4 personals, and it hurt. That's a tough loss. Obviously on the road, that's a game that we can give up because it is in Bloomington. It is not a bad loss by any means. That is a good Indiana team that is getting healthy, and they played better than we did. And we'll meet them again. Hopefully we'll beat them because I believe we are the better team. This week we have Iowa at home, which hopefully we take care of our business in that game, and then we play Purdue on the road, which let's just hope we can keep pace.
Survive?
Yeah. And again, we lost by 1 to them. I get it's at home.
No, I know.
This time it's going to be in Purdue, right? But
tough place to play.
In Mackey. We'll find a way, though, hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully. We'll find a way to keep up. And hopefully we'll find a way to win.
That's the hope and the dream.
Yeah, it is.
Well, thank you all for joining us for episode number 19 of the Quick Question Podcast. Before we finish this episode, last couple of weeks we've been putting together social media stuff, trying to get a new, new social presence with the show. I think initially when we started the show, started thinking about what we wanted to do. We wanted to be able to share clips on social media, whether that be Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever it is. I think we're slowly figuring out ways to do that. Having producer Zeke over here doing the show live now is a huge help. So hopefully in the coming weeks, we're getting content out, not just a couple clips from the episode the day it releases, but throughout the week, trying to be more consistent with that. But also, it would be a huge help if you guys could take a second and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. If you could subscribe to us, that way you get our shows regularly. They send it to your inbox. Mm-hmm. Same thing on YouTube. If you can subscribe to us on YouTube at Quick Question Sports Pod.
And please share.
And please share. The only
you don't
way,
have to share on social media. I mean, you can. That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Tell a friend.
Tell a friend.
Do whatever you need to do. The more people that know about it, the easier it is for us to put out these shows and also to move, hopefully, into doing them more frequently, which is the hope.
Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Exactly. That's the way the show...
Play a game of telephone with your friends.
And in the description... Jesus Christ. You done?
Yeah.
Okay. But in the episode description, you will also have links to all our social media platforms. So if you want to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, I know the content won't be great starting out, but it's something.
Check us
you
out.
can listen to Matt's hottest takes.
You got misconceptions. Yeah. No. Yes.
Anyways,
Yes.
thank you all for doing that. We appreciate all the support so far. We're almost to the 6-month mark, which is pretty incredible. So we'll keep churning these out. Hopefully we'll do a couple episodes a week at some point. But until then, my name is Gabe Ryan.
And I'm Matt Shafty.
Producer Zeke on the 1s and 2s. Thank you guys for joining us this week for episode 19, and we will see you next week. Thank you all.